How to make some children's dungarees from ages newborn to 4 years. Here are full video instructions containing lots of tips and tricks of the trade. So I'm going to start by folding the legs so that the two longer seams are together, and these are going to form the inside leg seams. So I'm matching the notches and I'm putting a few pins in just to keep the edges of the seams together. So the very top point, the 2 points at the top, they don't actually match, but where they overlap, that's where we're going to start sewing. And I'm going to do the other leg now. I'm going to put them both under the machine together. So I'm taking one of the legs over to the machine now. I'm going to sew a 1 centimetre seam allowance down the leg. Now if you notice, when I put the leg of the trouser onto the machine, the bulk of the fabric is to the left and the seams on the right. If you do it the other way around, it's a little bit awkward having all that fabric underneath the machine. So I've also got like a little stitch guide on my sewing machine, which I'm using to help me do a nice straight row of stitches. Come to the end and do a little back tack. And I'm going to do the other leg now. I'm starting at the top this time. There you see those two little points aren't actually meeting up, but where they overlap, that's where we're going to start stitching. Okay, so I'm just making sure those edges are together. That's basically what the pins are. Oh, I've put the pins on the wrong side there. Okay. And there we go, we'll just back tack at the end. So now I'm going to carry on by doing the centre front and the centre back seams, which will make this into a recognisable shape of a pair of trousers. So I'm just starting by turning one of the legs of the trousers the right way around, then making sure that those curved seams are both pointing in the same direction. Pulling one of the legs through the other, and when I pull it through, you should have the top of the inside leg seams just lying flat against each other. So I'm going to open up these seams. I'm going to start by pinning that point at the top of the inside legs. I've got some notches there, and I'm going to pin all the way around. Probably about 5 pins will do, all around that circular seam. Okay, so when you're finished, it should just look like a smiley face, and we'll keep it in that direction. If you see the pins are on the inside, if you imagine this pair of trousers as a tube, it's much easier to pin when you take it to the machine to sew it with the pins on the inside. So I've turned it inside out, and here's our recognisable trousers. Well, with this fabric, it's easy to tell which is the wrong and the right side, so that makes it very easy to work with. But I'm making a lining for these trousers out of some muslin that's identical on both sides. So to help me when I'm sewing, I'm going to put a little red cross or any sort of colour cross with some tailor's chalk to mark the wrong side of the fabric. Okay, so now when I'm putting my centre seams in, my inside leg seams in now, and it's just basically, it's going to prevent me from making 2 right legs or two left legs. When we make our legs, they've got to be a mirror image of each other, and those little crosses that we've put in place marking the wrong side of the fabric will sort of help us get that right the first time. There they are on the outside. I'm going to take them to the machine now and get them sewn up. So here's our 2 finished trouser pieces. I'm going to fold them up and I'm just going to put them to one side while I carry on getting other components of the dungarees together. So I'm going to start with the bibs. So I've got 2 pieces of bibs and 2 interfacing pieces. I'm going to put the rough side of the interfacing onto the wrong side of the bib. I'm going to take it and iron it. And what happens is the hot iron melts the glue and the interfacing bonds to the fabric. And it makes the fabric a bit stiffer, easier to work on, less likely to fray. If you're going to embroider or you're going to put a motif on this bib, it's sort of pretty essential that you do interface it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pattern piece and I'm going to mark the notches on the bib. So these notches are like little placements for where the loops are going to go. So I'm just going to use the tip of a sharp pair of scissors. I'm going to cut about halfway down into that seam allowance, not about a centimetre seam allowance. You should be able to see the sew line there marked on the pattern. Just a little nick, just as I say, just to sort of guide us as to where to put the loops on. You also can use little notches to mark centre points, and they just basically act as a guide to help you put all your fabric pieces together accurately. Okay, so there they are. You don't always have to do triangles, you can just do a little nick, anything that helps. Okay. So now I'm going to make my loops. So what I'm going to do is fold them over, right sides together. I'm going to sew right along the edge, very close. I'll take them to the machine now. So here we go, we're on the machine and I'm just running the seam right down the edge of the foot, just to make just a very small seam allowance. So these strips are cut on the bias, which means they're less likely to fray, which is really handy if you're working with something with a small seam allowance. Now I'm going to turn it inside out with a big needle. So what I'm doing next, I am going to thread it with some quite strong thread. I'm actually going to double my thread up, I think. Just to make sure it's strong, because when we're pulling it through, the last thing we need is for the thread to break. So I'm just doubling the thread up, which is quite easy if you've got a big eye on your needle. So we've got like 4 strands of thread. And what I'm going to do now, give it a little trim. So what I'm going to do now is sew into the actual seam allowance, just a couple of strong stitches there to hold it in place. And now I'm going to put the blunt end of the needle through that channel that we've just sewn. Shove it through, make sure you don't spike yourself. And now you've just got to sort of gently tease it back on itself. So the first bit's the hardest, just sort of squeeze the fabric in between your finger and thumb and just sort of pull it. And while you're keeping hold of that, so you can see with one hand I'm keeping hold of that cotton and I'm pulling and pulling. Once you get started, it's quite easy, and just keep pulling it through, and there you go, you've got your little bias loop. Okay, I'm going to trim that a little bit. There's the other one. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is put them on the actual bib itself. In between, can you see those little notches? I'm going to put the loops between the notches. No, I think that's a little bit long, so I'm going to trim about 1 centimetre off them. Maybe even more. I'll see what they look like when they're actually on the bib. Oh, just using my snippers here. I'm too lazy to go and get my scissors. Okay, so yeah, just place it in. And if you've got a seam that's shown, make sure the seam's up, pointing upwards. Okay. Just overlapping it there a little bit. I don't want them to be too long. And pin in. Okay, right in between those notches. Okay, see what it's like when it's turned up. That looks about right. Oh, a little bit more maybe. We don't want it too big. Okay, I'm just going to sew this one in place. Okay, so I'm going to start sewing a centimetre or less away from the edge of the bib. Put that in place. Okay, I'm going to just carry on, go and save. Starting again, here we go. Hold it in place and just sew right over that and this. Make sure you don't sew over your pins because you can break a needle. There we go. So make sure that's no further than 1 centimetre down. Okay, that's fine. So the next thing we're going to do is prepare our waistband. So this is a piece of elastic that's 3 centimetres wide. You could do with a pen and a ruler. It's going to make this job easier because what we're going to do now is make a channel to throw the elastic through. So to start with, I'm going to turn my fabric the right way around, just taking it to the iron now, and I'm going to iron it so that we've got, just to give it a crisper line. And what I'm going to do is take my elastic and put it to the fold that we've just done on the iron. I'm going to mark with a pen the width of the elastic on the actual fabric itself. Just a few little nicks now. I'm being very naughty here, I'm using a biro. But obviously if you could find yourself a little bit of tailor's chalk or a fabric marker that'll fade with time, or you can get rid of with an iron or water, that'd be better. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my ruler just to join those lines, those little marks all up, and that's just going to give me a nice straight edge to use as a stitch guide really. Because basically we want to have this channel the same width as the elastic. If it's too narrow, the elastic won't lie flat. So here I'm going to start sewing this now, right down that, see the line that we've just marked, and that just makes it really easy to make sure you have a nice channel that's the same width as the elastic. There you go, give a little back tack there. Great. Now what I'm going to do is use a safety pin to thread that elastic through the channel that I've just made. Okay, so just gently pull the fabric. I'm gripping the pin with my finger and thumb there. I'm just pushing it through. That's it. Pushing and pulling. Just making sure the elastic is straight in the channel and not twisted. So it's not a difficult job to do really. So when I get to the end, take that pin out and I'm just going to secure that elastic on the machine before I do any more, because you don't want to lose it. And on this side as well, just give it a little tug. So just flatten it out. I'm just going to sew quite close to the edge there. Yeah, and that's just going to secure your waistband. Okay, all ready to go on the bib. So now I've just put my waistband on the bib and made sure that the seams are both matching at the bottom seam of the waistband and the bottom seam of the bib. I'm just putting a few stitches in either side of the waistband, quite close to the seam allowance to hold it in place. There you go. And that's just going to be perfect to take it over and now get the bib assembled. So what I'm going to do now is just take the top half of the bib that we haven't worked on, and we're just sort of making a sandwich. We're sandwiching in the loops and the waistband I'm going to put a few pins all the way around, just marking my notches, matching my notches, should I say, and pin the whole way around that semicircle. And that's ready for the machine now. Okay, so the thing about interfacing is it's a perfect surface to mark with a pen or a pencil or anything. So I think if you're having trouble or you're not confident with drawing a semicircle, just draw it in, just draw a few little lines in with a pen on your interfacing, and then you've got a stitch guide. Now when I'm sewing this, it's important when I get to the lines of stitching I've just done is just to sew a little bit further over. Okay, so make sure that you sort of either sew on them or you just sew a little bit further over, because when we turn it around, if we go inside of them or the other side of them, you'll see the stitches. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that, get some sharp scissors, I'm going to nick all around and make notches. Now these notches almost go down to the stitching, not quite. They're not like the other notches that we did that mark the placements. These actually get rid of some of that seam allowance, which is too big to lie flat. So when we turn it around, we've got rid of that seam allowance, and that should iron nice and flat now. So there you go, that's the top part of the bib done. I'm going to iron it and put it to one side. Now I'm going to work on the straps. So I've folded my straps over lengthways, and now if you want, you could just put yourself on a little stitch guide line to help you get your stitches nice and straight, square. So I'm going to stitch that square corner, okay, and just get this other one prepped as well, take it to the machine. Okay, so I'm going to start at the square edge. I'm going to start little back tack. When you get to the corner, put your needle down, put your foot up, foot down again, and swivel your fabric round, foot down again, and carry on sewing. When you get to this angled edge, you're just going to leave that angled edge open, so just finish off the little back stitch. Okay, so should we see that again? Start at the square edge, a few little stitches, needle down, foot up, swivel, foot down, and there we go. There we go. So here's our two straps. I'm going to turn them inside out. So at the square edge, I'm just going to use my thumb to make a little tiny pocket, just enough of a little pocket to push in my long handle screwdriver. You can use a knitting needle, any sort of straight edge that'll fit in the channel. Just using the tip of that screwdriver to sort of flatten out the square. Put that to one side. What are you doing, Anita? So there's our two turned out straps, and I'm using the handle of the screwdriver to flatten it out, giving it a nice iron. There we go. So we should have the seam right on the edge. And there's the two straps. Perfect. So here's all our components of the dungarees. Now we've got the lining and the trouser, the assembled bib, and the straps. So we're just going to start by getting the trouser piece and the straps. What we're going to do is we're going to position these straps in between the notches that we've marked at the back of the trousers. They're the placements for the straps. If you want to check, now you'll see that the back seam of your trousers should be a lot longer than your front seam. So if you're getting confused about what's the front and the back, your back seam is longer. So I'm putting that angled edge of the strap now between the two notches on the back of the trousers. Okay, so I'm just going to see the notches? So you would have marked them when you actually cut the trousers out. I'm putting a pin just to hold them in place. And when you turn them out, they cross over. That's what they're supposed to do. So I'm just going to machine them now. They are. I've just sewed them in place so they're ready for the next stage, which is sewing the bib and the waistband onto the trousers. So you're having the trousers facing upwards, okay, and you're just going to lay your bib against the front of the trousers and match up the centre of the bib to your centre seam. Okay, your centre seam notches, that's what I'm doing, and put a pin in. And now I'm going to put that elastic all around the edge of the bib, the elastic waistband. Now, where the pin's going in here, there should be a corresponding notch on your trousers. Now what I'm going to do now is find the centre of that waistband, okay, just by putting the two ends together, and I'm putting a little pin just where it, that's it, okay, and I'm going to put that pin on the centre seam, okay, so just slide it over the trousers and put the centre, that pin on the centre back seam of the trousers, and put a pin in the actual seam. And there's just one more pin to go in, and that should be, you should have a little notch on your trousers that corresponds with the end of that bib. Okay, so that's all the pins I'm going to put in now, because this has got to be stretched as it's sewn, which isn't difficult, okay. All you need to, we're going to turn the trousers inside out again now, just so the pins are on the inside. So again, we're sewing inside a tube. That is the trousers. Okay, so I'll take that over to the machine now and show you what I do. So here it is. Okay. So that's the end of the bib. I'm going to start where the bib starts, and if you see where, you can actually see the existing stitching where I've sewn that channel in there. I'm going to start the stitch in there, so it's about 1 centimetre seam allowance. Okay, so this bit you don't have to stretch, this is just the bibs going onto the trousers, to the front of the trousers, so this is the easy bit. Okay. Make sure your edges are together. Now we're getting onto the stretchy bit. So all I'm doing is I'm holding the back seam where it's pinned, and I'm just pulling the elastic from the waistband and making sure that the 3 pieces of fabric are all together. And I'm going to sew just over that existing stitching that I've already done when I made the channel for the waistband. I'm just going to stretch and sew. Okay, I'm just coming to the centre point now, the centre back. I'll take that pin out of the way and just keep stretching, just making sure that those 3 bits of fabric are together. There you go. And stretch again, and we're nearly back at the beginning. That's it, that's where we started. So here they are back at the table. I'm going to turn them the right way around so you can see what they look like. All the components are in place apart from the lining. So there you go, there's the straps, it's nice and neat at the back. There's the little loops, the bib looks nice. Yeah, that looks good on the outside, but on the inside we've got lots of raw edges. So I'm going to show you how you can very quickly remedy that by adding the lining. So what I'm going to do is just fill the bib down so that all the seams are pointing upwards. Fill those straps back as well. Okay. There. Okay. And now you're going to grab your lining and turn your lining inside out. So your trousers are facing upwards, so you need to have your lining facing upwards as well. So you should have not put your notches in the lining, but if you haven't, just check that the front is the smallest seam. So, and now I'm just going to put the trousers into the lining so the two are facing each other, and just line up the front of the bib with the front of the lining. You've got all your little notches. All your little notches should be in your lining as well. So there you go. There's the notch for the bib. Okay, there. So let's put some pins on the inside. So we're going to put the pins where we've actually got the stitch in. Okay, so then when we stitch around, we're going to go over that stitching again. And here is the dreaded the dreaded elastic. Okay, so just get the back seam of your trousers and put that on the back seam of your lining. Okay, and put a pin there. So basically you just need 4 pins in it. You need a pin in the centre, a pin at the edge of the bib, there's the other one. Lines up lovely with the, if all your notches match up, you know that you're on the right track. If they don't, oh God, might be something wrong here. So here I've just brought that over. There you can see the red tailor's chalk on the wrong side. We're going to start where the bib starts again. You can't see it, it's inside, sandwiched inside the lining and the trousers, but it's there. Just make sure all of your seams are together. And this is the easy bit, this is the bib bit that you don't have to stretch. Okay. Now, here we go, that's the end of the bib, so you're going to have to start. Take that centre back seam in your hand. You should have a pin. Make sure all those edges are together and just stitch over your existing stitching. That's it. And you're sandwiching in, as you're doing this, you're sandwiching those straps in as well. There's this, you see this sewing for the straps there, that the original sewing. There it is. So you're going below that sewing and you're going over the last row of stitches that you did. And just keep pulling and keep pushing that lining up so all the edges come together. Just take your time. It's worth it. It just covers a multitude of sins. This covers all your raw edges and encases them within the actual lining. Okay, so now here we are. We're going to turn it all inside out. Sometimes this is called bagging out, and they use this method an awful lot in tailoring and coats, jackets. So right, I'm just going to put my hand up off one of the legs, and I'm going to start pulling everything through one leg. There you go. Just do it gently so nothing gets ripped, nothing's forced. It's just gently going to get turned inside out. Okay, just keep tugging away. The thing about having a lining on your trousers, it just makes them nice and comfortable. And like if you're making a pair of winter dungarees, it's an extra layer of warmth. But also in the summer, it's just if you're using something nice and absorbent like 2 t-shirts, or it just makes it really comfortable. So there you go, can you see? I'm going to turn them inside out so you can see the lining now. Okay, so no raw edges there. That's really, in fact that's so neat, it could just be used as a reversible, couldn't it, if you lined it in itself. It's really nice and neat. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the hems. I'm just going to do this the easy way. So you could press these first if you wanted, but all I'm going to do is just grab the edges, the bottoms, I'm just going to roll them back. So make sure the 2 seams are matching. I'm just going to roll them back twice. Put a little pin in that there now. Like if you're using a contrasting line, and this would look really nice, this detail. I thought these trousers might look nice with a white t-shirt underneath to go with the white trim. And there we go, just put about 3 or 4 pins, and then we'll take that over to the machine and we're going to just do a nice little top stitch on that. Okay, stab myself with a pin then. Okay, so I've got them both pinned up now. I'm going to turn them inside out again. So again, we're sewing inside a tube. So important for an easy, stress-free experience. And I'm just going to take these over to the sewing machine now. Okay, so I've got my trousers inside out. As you can see, it's just much easier sewing inside this little tube. Starting at the inside leg seam, and I'm just going to keep my stitching really close to the to the edge of the turn up there. I've also changed my cotton, and I've got some white cotton on here because I'm doing top stitching. Okay, little back tack there. Here's the other one. Starting again at the inside leg seam. Take your pins out as you go. Sometimes people put their pins in horizontally and they don't have to take the pins out. And if that helps as well, you could do that. And then you can go over them with a needle, apparently, and they don't break. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do something to these straps now. Well, if you would like to, or you've had enough of sewing, you could just actually thread them through that little loop and put a little knot in, and that's quite fashionable these days, so that's perfectly acceptable. Right, there's our strap. I'm going to put some press studs on it, so I'm going to have my strap so it's facing down. I bought these press studs from Home and Bargain. They were only about £1, so for each strap you need 6 press studs because you're going to throw away. You need a front and 2 backs. Okay, so you're going to throw away one of the fronts. Okay, throw that away. Now also be careful when you're sewing press studs on, because the back of this one looks a little bit like that one. Okay, like these two. So just make sure. So I'm going to put about an inch, space these out an inch. I'm going to put, what's called male and female or what? So I'm going to sew them on with double thread again. And when I'm sewing, I'm trying not to go, I'm just trying to go through one layer of fabric so that you can't see it on the right side of the straps. And I'm sewing them about 1 inch apart from each other. So there you go. So you put them in through the loop. The reason that you've got the 2 sort of male press studs is because you can alter it. It can grow, so you can make those straps bigger as your child grows. So obviously, yeah, making something that's going to last a little bit longer. So there you go. Very neat.